if someone did something evil 100 years ago and is now Christ-like, does he have to pay for what he did, and who's the one who names it? Is it all right to kill 100 today to save 1,000 tomorrow? Those questions were the best things for me because they gave us something to talk about rather than which way did he go, George? You know?
I got a question for you guys, because there's this show Outlander, which I mean I've not seen, but I'm you know, I sort of. It's the same show, isn't it? Isn't it a Scottish guy who does like we have flashbacks to? It's
different. It's a different. Is it? It's a different. I mean, it's when I first saw Outlander, I thought, but it's not. It's a linear story that involves time travel. I mean, a linear that moves along, and it's not so much about immortality. It's a really gothic, incredibly gothic, romantic love story between a slightly older woman and a younger male, and how that plays out throughout the centuries, and the reason and their adventures as they move together through time. And they're not immortal, but they just happen to be able to move through time. They get older, so it's slightly different. But I got
variations on a theme.
Variations on a theme.
And there's deep themes, like it deals with a lot of like rape and extreme violence.
Right, we really couldn't do a lot of that, except in an episode that Denny Barry did. And then we could do anything we wanted. Absolutely could blame Denny. That wasn't written, he just... Like when Duncan became evil, yes.
An extension of Sharon's question for Peter and Jim. Is there a story out there that you wish, just an arc of a story that you would have told if you had power to set up a script? A missing episode?
I don't think so. Yeah, that was always a David question. You know, the script would arrive and you'd read it and go, "Oh, that's cool."
Or
there was nothing.
Or I got to make this better.
What are we going to do? Ooh, roasty. I would have liked to have been able to come up with doing something over time and a love story where the woman or the man is getting older and how that affects and maybe play it over generations, which would have been a couple generations, which would have been an interesting dynamic to play and give you a number of scenes in terms of that. And that would have been somewhat fun, you know, like Duncan is in love with someone, desperately in love with someone. She ages 20 years, they get into a fight, he goes out and finds a younger woman, he feels incredibly guilty. How does that deal with his relationship? How does she deal with it? All those kinds of things that we didn't play. That would be fun to me, that kind of stuff, because you can get into the heads of the characters.
Earlier you were talking about high points in your life.
I'm sorry.
Oh, speak up. So you were talking about high points in your life, changes in your life at different points. I've always been interested in characterization. So where, for the characters, for Mythos, for Joe, where were their high points in their lives that changed them out, that showed them, you know, about their life and that changes need to be made, or they need something like that?
It just occurred to me, Mythos's love story in season 4, she was called Alexa, wasn't she?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That was problematic.
It hadn't struck me before, but Alexa, turn the music on.
Yeah, I mean, for me, that was a kind of a defining point for my understanding of mythos and where he had come from, what he had experienced. That his ability to completely dissolve into the moment, into this moment now, because he knew how precious it was, because they were all going away. And that he could kind of surf that water, but when he let it get through, it came, the brokenness, the pain came from very deep in him. But that moment told me a lot about him. And then the kind of Methuselah's gift, the payoff of that story. That was.
And the scene with Jimmy, that was a scene that was.
Yeah, I mean, the Mythos just had such a great. He had great scenes. He had all the best lines. He was the most interesting and best character in the show. Because there's so many limitations on the lead of the show. He has to be a particular, you've got to be this heroic character. Mythos didn't have to be anything at all, which made, he had no boundaries. It made him exciting and interesting and the kind of character that you could just throw in as backstory. Oh yeah, no, he was one of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. You didn't know that? Oh. You could throw that stuff in and it made absolute sense and came from nowhere and then suddenly came from, no, of course I've always known that. I just didn't realize I knew it. Those are the great, really great moments of writing where you find out a new piece of information, it's incredibly shocking and surprising, and then it instantly completely obvious. And so, I mean, Mythos had so many great moments for me as an actor, but also as just somebody reading stories. The thing, I mean, I think the thing about the Alexa story was that I didn't. It was very early in my playing of that character, so that was, I'm still pulling stuff in, trying to figure out what can I do with this, and that was a big, okay, now I get the depth of what it means to live for 5,000 odd years.
I think Jim's character was one of my favorites to write because he was us. And I mean, how would we respond to these questions? And because he knew what was going on, but lived in an entirely different, lived a mortal life, and that's what Jim was just perfect.
As one of the watchers, I mean, and you guys were all watchers, right? I mean, that was the deal, I mean, I was kind of represented the fan base in that way. And as far as the episode, the story of him losing his legs and what's going to happen, and then becoming a part of this watcher organization that he had, was mysterious. And what the hell are you talking about? What do you mean? These people live forever, and accepting that, and I mean those changes, and you use. I mean, when I lost my legs, I mean, you can only imagine. I mean, you have no idea what your life is going to be like.
I was so.
And you just like, what am I going to do? And something comes along, and either and you go with it, and so I think that would be in terms of the episode, that the story of Joe's loss, and then the gaining the knowledge of the immortals and everything. That would be the big changer in Joe's life.
I think I was nervous when we had the idea of approaching you and seeing, and you were so magnanimous and so. I'm an actor. This is great for me.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's because it's what happened to me, and why should I? I can't hide it. I don't want to hide it. I want to let people know how that you can overcome it, and that you can with the help of other people. Some of it's what's in you, and some of it's what people give you. But so I was very happy to be able to do
I
that.
just want to say I really miss you guys.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. Did I?
I'm very interested in the use of language, and I noticed with Duncan's flashbacks, you covered how some of it changed in his conversations with Queen Anne and like that. I'm wondering, I'm not recalling any time that we ever heard Mythos use a different language to curse in some ancient language that no one understands. Like that. I wondered if was that just an oversight, or did you just not have any?
No,
What time
I think,
is the train to Kharkov?
Oh, yeah, he did do some
The
parsing.
Russian. Yeah.
I think that Mythos was always a character of the moment. I think Duncan was a character of, and because he was Duncan MacLeod of Clan MacLeod, everything wrong he ever did within him. And he was, and Mythos is a character that was so compartmentalized that things that he was able to just live in the moment and say, shit happens. I was an ass then. I was really evil then. I was good then. I did great things then. And so what? And it was only when he was touched by Alexa and some of those moments when the other things merged, or it's only under moments when like the scene at the gym, everything else was, if you were talking, was hidden because it's what he had to do to survive, I believe. And it was so deep that you just didn't see it, and which is why he could skate at the same time and be wise at the same time and be so cavalier about, which I think the line for me is after he kills the woman, after Duncan kills the woman in Valkyrie, and Peter turns to him and is, after all this happens, is you feel like pizza, and that is how he survived, which is why we didn't write him. It just didn't seem, because he didn't carry the weight of his years. He carried the understanding of his years, but not the weight, because he just couldn't. That's a pretty good.
Yeah, pull that up.
Fantastic.
Better than I thought.
I had to be.
Question over there.
How do you feel, well, over the past several years, there's been other characters about, other shows about immortality, how their immortality came about a different way. It was a show called New Amsterdam, one called Forever, but they didn't last more than maybe half the season. Is it a way that shows were approached, or maybe the stories just weren't?
We didn't have you, and we didn't have you guys, and we were just. I think the reason the show lasted was because there was some philosophical base to some of the episodes that got people talking, and once people were talking, they formed. Sorry, someone just left my front door of my house. And then you formed a community, and that community grew, and that formed the basis of us, and that was the reason, I think.
That was show Forever. I could see there was a lot of similar lines in it. There was like, well, who used to be his son is now his father, and because now the son is now allegedly older than he is.
We also.
Yeah, and it was like, if
Had
they
a
borrowed
great
a lot from you, is that what the show
We
was
had a
about?
great cast. There were few people who could act. If you see a lot of many of the people on Highlander who did it became much bigger stars later on. And then, but mostly, I think it was Jim, Peter, Adrian, and Elizabeth, and that was those four
that group were people that, and their characters were so different, but somebody in the audience could identify with them. And I think we got lucky. I mean, that's real, magic has to happen. And magic happened on Highlander.
That's the frustrating thing about the business. It's that alchemy. Constantly, you have studios or you put people together and you tell a story and it should work and it doesn't. And every so often, something that you don't expect is just magical. And then you try and do that again and it doesn't work. Because it's, if you have the right foundation, if you have, you're telling a story that has some truth, some meaning, some relevance, then okay, you're in with a chance. And then if you put good people into it, then you're probably still in with a chance. And then you add interesting locations or competent teams, and you try and build something, and sometimes
The magic works.
sometimes it all falls to pieces.
It's chemistry. It's like a basketball team. You know, you can put, people have to, these guys were just great.
If it was easy, everyone would do it all the time.
You know, and then you got Roger Daltrey, and you get Valentine Pelka, and you get those people who just, and like Roger, who knew, you know? He was only supposed to be in for 3 days, and I had to write, and when Werner became ill, I had to write all night long and a day and another day and change the script entirely. And it was no proofreading, it was nothing. It was writing, shoot this. And he turned out to be great, not just good, but great. And his charm just, it was like watching a demented leprechaun with an incredible sense of humor play up against, and watching Adrian play against him and try to be funny was just also really, it was just, and it just added more to the moment. It was strange. It was a strange combination.
I mean, I think what we try and do is put ourselves in a position to get lucky. That's basically it. And sometimes you get lucky.
I got a question that kind of...
Yeah.
This morning they showed a clip of a sword fight between you and Callis.
Yeah.
And at the end, the two of you fell off the bridge. And I want to know, how many times did you have to fall off the bridge to get it right?
That's easy. I didn't have to fall off. It's way too expensive if I fall off the bridge and hurt myself, so I don't get to fall off the bridge. We had that in Queen of Swords, where there was leaping off a building onto, grab somebody on a horse, and I wanted to do it. I mean, they're just, they're shooting from the ground up. There's this big mat, and I wanted to do it, and they were just like, no, you can't do that. And then when we were in Lithuania doing the movie there, Mythos rides off on a motorcycle in one shot. All I'm doing is starting the bike and rolling out a shot. And this was weeks of fighting with insurance companies about whether I would be allowed to do that. You can't just do a close-up of him on the bike and then we pan out really wide. So, but yeah, they wouldn't let me fall off a bridge like that now.
I just let everybody know we have about 4 minutes left, so maybe 1 or 2 questions.
Donna Leto and I have fought for years about Mythos having his own show, and she told me for years, there's nobody going to watch an anti-hero. And I believe you were in on that with her.
No, I wasn't.
You weren't?
No, it wasn't about, it wasn't that, it was just, it was a hard sell. And it was a hard sell. It wasn't because no one would watch an anti-hero.
Why was it hard?
It's because Peter wasn't a big enough name star to sell to distributors. People put up a lot of money to do a show, and they guarantee a lot of money, and so you need someone who is bankable in the moment, and even if I would love to have done that show, and it wasn't about him he was a great character to play, but we just couldn't raise the money on it.
It's not complicated, it's business. Right?
Yeah.
I remember Panzer saying about Christophe Lambert that Christophe's great talent is he knows exactly what he is worth to a production, and that's a rare quality. But it's every actor, everyone that comes on the show, they have a particular value to that production, and that value changes according to what else goes on in their careers. But it's just business.
To put Christophe in the first episode, even though I wasn't there, okay, of Highlander, at first they offered him. He asked for an outrageous a lot of money, and they said no, and absolutely not. You're not worth that. And then when they tried to sell the show, they said the buyer said it's Christophe Lambert going to hand off the mantle. And all of a sudden, Christophe Lambert became valuable. And when they went back to him, he said, "No, I want double what I asked for." And they paid him. So that's probably that's the story.
So you might ask for double
I said we probably have time for one more question. That's it.
Or I could sit we could sit another 10 minutes. It's my thing next. If you want.
Sure. Gotcha.
I'm not nearly as interesting as they are. It's the truth, actually.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Sharon.
Okay. If we pretend that Endgame and the Source don't exist,
If what?
if we pretend that Endgame and the Source don't exist, 25 years later, what do you see Mythos and Joe and Duncan and Amanda doing? Like, where would they be living? What would they be doing? I know Duncan would still be Duncan McLeod, but maybe the other mortals might have different identities.
I think Mythos would be an anesthesiologist. He'd go back to his life as a doctor, which he was already in that
The
time.
anesthesiologist again.
Amanda would be married, would be in a polygamous marriage with an incredibly wealthy man and an incredibly beautiful man. And they would be live happily ever after until she got arrested for fleecing the guy who she was wealthy. Jim would be
Joe.
Joe would be living in Mallorca, and with his 12 adoring children, and they would call him Don.
I have a question for all three of you. All three of you have been attending conventions as long as most of us have. We did a little survey earlier on. There was about 12 people here, first time at a Peter Wingfield Fan Club convention. What's your thoughts on us still gathering after 25 years?
I was thinking about that this morning, actually. I was thinking the first convention I did was Denver in '95. And what I remember of that, apart from the extraordinary weirdness of walking out and just all these people screaming and flashlights, flashbulbs. And we don't have those anymore because everyone's camera you just click and you fix it in post, and then we get a flashlight. But yeah, I mean that's what I remember that experience. We would say, okay, we'll have like 60 seconds. Everyone can take their photographs, and then no more flash photography. no more flash photography. So there are things about us that are different, but also the change in the community. When I started on the show, there was, you do an episode, and then Ken Gord brought me some like clippings of online chat about the show, where there was this group of people out there somewhere that would send some kind of email or something into space, and he'd print up comments. And now that world is just everywhere about everything. I mean, that arc that we've lived through, I mean, you guys were right on the front edge of that change in the world and how people interact and how they relate to not just TV shows, but to everything around them.
But you guys are much nicer.
Yeah. And loyal as well.
Jim?
Well,
What's your thoughts on still attending conventions after 25 years to see you guys?
well, I mean, it's extraordinary that obviously we did something right. Once again, I mean, Denver was the first one, but everyone has been. I mean, we see a number of these faces of people we know, but that there are new people here is really extraordinary. That's that the way this has evolved, that people are still being touched by what we did. It gets to me, that you care enough about us to be here and to ask us these questions, and that you care.
Even though I think a lot of you guys care for each other, and we're just the dancing bears. But
You want to see each other as much as you want to see us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We yes. I don't share as much time with Peter and Jim as Peter and Jim shared with Peter and Jim, but these are guys that I would do almost anything. But I'm very grateful that you guys are here, because you guys bring back great memories. You bring out the best in us in many ways. I know for me, I am wittier, smarter here than I am anywhere else in my life. And you can ask my wife about that. She'll tell you it's absolutely true.
Yeah, I mean, I think the importance of community, of feeling that you belong to something, that you have people that understand you and how you see the world, it's incredibly important, more so every day. And we provide the excuse for you to get together, and you provide the excuse for us to get together, and it's wonderful.
Years ago on Saturday Night Live, there was a skit where William Shatner is addressing a Star Trek convention, and he tells people, "It's just a TV show. Get a life." Now, do you guys ever feel like that? I mean, like you get tired of coming to these things, or?
It's really funny because my wife doesn't get it. She says it was just a TV show, but this is because of you. There is this community, so it's different, and this is really interesting because you come from all walks of life. You do different things. You know different things, and yet you're together on this, and this is pretty special. I'm very happy with it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty tolerant of people's weirdnesses.
What are you trying to say?
I'm trying to say we all of us do what we need to do to get by. For me, I'm very good. Doing what I do now, like anesthesiologists are weird, obsessive people. I have attendings that will tell me, if you don't lay your syringes out this way on the table, then you're doing it wrong. And I get what that's about. That's, you know, the ones that really think there is only one way to do it and that if you do anything else, people will die, are crazy people. Everyone really understands that you can do it any way you want, but doing it the same way all the time is helpful, because then when stuff is happening really intensely, you know where to look for things, you know where to reach for things, and if you're in someone else's room and you reach for something that you need and it's not there, that's not helpful. I get that. So you know, weirdnesses and eccentricities to get through the day, I have a pretty wide spectrum of tolerance on what people do.
He's not saying you're weird, though.
No, what I am saying, when you go to Comic-Con and there were people, you know, dressed as Klingons with the bumpy heads, and you know, that story of that kid they found wandering in San Diego and they couldn't understand what language it was talking. Because the parents were bringing it up to speak Klingon as its first language. And you go, oh, okay, that's but I, you know, William Shatner and his observation, get a life, no, we all have what we do to make life good. And I recognize people's weirdnesses. I don't judge.
Dave.
I just wanted to ask. Yesterday, I was sitting around listening to other people in our fan fiction genre, and did anybody look at any of the fan fiction from whether you were actors, writers, or whatever you, and then either go like this with their eyes wide open, or just toss it down and go, holy smokes, I don't want to be that person.
So I stopped Googling myself back in the 90s. Because, yeah, there's stuff out there I don't need to see.
What he said.
Two-part question here. When did you guys realize that you were part of something special with the show? When did it kick in, whether it was an episode, a fan convention? And did you have any idea that through this extended family here, that 25 years or so later, we would all still be a family and we could come to events like this?
So for me, it was the convention in Denver. That was when I realized that this was something completely beyond my, I'd done a couple of days on that. At that point, I'd done season 3, I did the Mythos episode and the 2 finales, and I was now in Vancouver doing 2 episodes of filming there. There was no long-term contract. The show wasn't playing in the UK. There was for me, no understanding of what it meant to anyone. And then I'd walk out onto